Welcome to the Humble Hoof Podcast. My name is Alicia Harlov. This is a podcast for both horse owners and hoof care professionals, offering discussions into various philosophies on the health of the hoof and soundness of your horse. Please check us out on Facebook or at thehumblehoof.com. Last year in 2025, a handful of hoof care providers and I got together to work on an app called the Hoof to Horse Academy. And this was something that we envisioned would help owners and other professionals to learn more about how to grow the healthiest hooves possible for horses, with lessons about everything from nutrition to anatomy to environment to things like track systems or even trimming and trimming pathology cases. As we work together, we realize that we have a lot of opinions that align with each other, and our conversations were always so great. And we decided to record one of ours and talk a bit about welfare in equine rehab cases. Yeah. If you want to do a brief, tell us a little about yourself and your journey into hoof care and kind of where you are now.
Yeah, so my name's Kat and I'm based in Canberra in Australia. I'm actually moving back to Victoria in the next couple of months, but I'm a hoof care practitioner here. I've been in the industry for 10 years. I started off doing a diploma of EPT and then got more into farrier work and went over to America to Pacific Coast Horseshoeing School, and then was working through my RPL for a Cert 4 in farrier here in Australia. And I just do a lot of trimming and composite work and rehab work and some hot shoeing and a little bit of all of that. So that's what I do. I'm also a co-host on the podcast Canotherapy. And yeah, I just love horses and enjoy doing things to help them.
Yeah, awesome. And Becky, do you want to go next?
Sure. So I'm Becky, and I have been in hoof care for about 3 years. But my experience prior to that was actually in higher education with a specialty specifically in equine nutrition and equine biology. So my journey into hoof care was my pursuit of learning how to trim my own horses, and it sort of snowballed from there so that I could provide them the best care possible.
I feel like all of us kind of start with kind of our own horses and dealing with an issue, and maybe not all of us, but a lot of us. Yeah.
It's always interesting. I find that we, as generally hoof care practitioners as a general, start like that, but farriers do it in a very different way. They come in at 16, 17 and do an apprenticeship because that's what they want to do with their careers. But a lot of us come to it later in life.
Or that's true, I guess. I hadn't really thought of it. Yeah. Lisa, do you want to tell us a little bit about your journey into hoof care?
Yeah, sure. So my name's Lisa. I run the Glorious Hoof, which is a hoof care business in Sydney, in Australia. Been in business for 13 years now, officially. And I got into hoof care because I was 12 years old and my pony that my mother had just bought me was really naughty for the farrier. And we couldn't get the farrier back, and my mum thought that I could just do it. So she bought me a rasp, and I've been trimming my own horses since then. So that's 30 years.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah. And always trimmed friends' horses and whatnot, and then turned it into a proper business. Went through the EPT school, same school that Kat went through. And here we are. I kind of focus my business more on rehabilitation now, rather than a big book of maintenance cases and education and, all that good stuff.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm not sure if everybody knows this, but we kind of all know each other because we connected through Hoof to Horse Academy, which is an app website learning platform that we're all working on because we're so similar in our passions about equine welfare and hoof rehab and growing or helping helping horses grow the healthiest hooves possible. And it's so interesting how we all came from such different sort of
areas and walks of life, and how I really feel like the four of us especially have such a like-minded approach when it comes to hoof care and a lot of things in horse care. And, you know, we've talked about so many different topics at this point for the last however many months we've known each other, or I mean, years even. But something that I really wanted to focus on today, and something that I think is what we all have talked about and feel strongly about, is sort of the ethics when it comes to these horses that we're rehabbing, and the ethics in their care and welfare. And yeah, I guess sort of to like jumpstart that, to kind of dive right in, it's like we're working on horses that have lameness issues, and there can be a split between what the owner ultimately wants for the horse and what we as professionals believe might be right for the horse.
Best practice or otherwise. Because I don't think it can be right or wrong, because there's so many ways to skin a cat. But what we feel might be the best choice or ethical choice for the owner.
And that's true. Yeah, it might not necessarily be correct. You're right. Like it might not be the right thing, but we might feel differently about that horse's ultimate, or what the owner's ultimate end goal is for that horse. Yeah, and I think that, I mean, to sort of just kickstart the conversation, I know that we all kind of mentioned a bit about rehab, and we do that, but how much, like what percentage of the horses that you guys work on, and I know Becky, you've sort of like shifted away from full-time hoof care, but what sort of percentage of horses that you have worked on in your practices are rehab cases?
That's a really hard one to define, I think, because it's like, well, what are we talking about? Horses that come to us because they're already broken, or horses that we're trying to rehab? Like, where's the line? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, what is a rehab case? What is rehabilitation, I guess?
Because
I guess in my thought process...
Sorry, go.
No, I was just gonna say, I guess in my thought process, I mean, it's true. I think that every single hoof I pick up, I'm like, oh, this hoof needs me. It needs something. But I think when I'm thinking of rehab, I'm thinking of cases where horses are lame, like actively lame. And the owner is like, I want to fix this horse. And I mean, I think a lot of owners, ideally, it's to rehab them to be ridden.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I would agree with that as a definition of rehab.
Yeah. And so I would say, like, in my business now, I mean, ultimately, well, I'm not really picking up new clients, but so a lot of mine are now maintenance cases, but I would say that, you know, probably 50% of them are ones that we're still actively rehabbing.
Yeah. It's funny that we get to the point where their rehabilitation is complete, and then they do just become maintenance. And then you feel like maybe you should, like I feel this way, maybe I should be handing that horse over to someone else. And I find that very difficult to do.
It's like you get protective of their feet.
Yeah, right? Like, and not that I think
how beautiful they are.
I know. And it's not like I don't think other people can look after those hooves, but it's like the amount of effort and thought and education and just time spent worrying about those horses, you know, for months or sometimes even a year or two. I can feel very protective.
Yeah.
I would say that mine's probably about 50% of the horses I'd be working with a vet to do something.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I would say that I probably saw less of a percentage of rehab cases than you guys have in your practices, because I think the further along you get in hoof care, the more those cases find you, because people know that you're good at rehabbing those cases. But what I found really interesting, like when I first started out, I was like, oh, I'm just going to trim maintenance horses. Like when I start, I'm just going to trim maintenance horses. And you'd go out and you'd be like, where are the maintenance horses? You know, every foot to me seemed like it, not every foot, but many feet to me had some degree of rehab that they needed, whether it was a shod to barefoot transition that needed some help, or maybe it was just a backyard horse and the owner just wasn't keeping up with a regular trim cycle, and the hooves just needed to get on a better cycle to improve and for the horse to feel better. Yeah. But I also was really surprised by the amount of cases that I would look at and define a rehab, and the owners, maybe didn't recognize that was the case.
Yes. So. Yes. And how many times have you said, oh, this horse, this is some seedy toe, or this is, I'm seeing some inflammation, or I'm seeing XYZ, or even just, there's quite a lot of thrush here. I think this is why your horse is not moving out nicely. And the owner will come back to you with, oh, no one's ever told me that before. No one's ever mentioned that before.
Yeah.
It happens a lot.
Yeah. Actually, Alicia and I just talked today about a case that I had who had sore feet, and the owner had never heard equine metabolic syndrome mentioned before. And, when I saw the foot, that was the first thing that jumped out to me because of what I was seeing in the foot. I was like, oh, this horse has some nutritional issues going on, because that's also my background. Like, nutrition's my background. So, and sure enough, we got the diet under control, and the owner actually moved the horse to a completely different property where the management is very outside all the time with good movement and a mineral balanced diet to the hay. And it was like within 2 trim cycles, it was a completely different foot. Yeah. And the owner was like so happily surprised, but like shocked that the hooves could change that quickly with just those management changes.
Yeah. I think this is where ethics comes into it, right? Because ethically, for me, it's my job to not just look at the hoof and see that in isolation. Ethically, I need to look at the entire picture. Yeah. Because if I'm not saying, hey, I think that we are consistently getting issues with thrush because your horse stands in a cesspit, like it's really muddy at the moment, and they just don't have anywhere dry to stand. Ethically, for me, I have to mention something. I have to talk about the management, and I think especially you'll probably have more of an exposure to this than I do, Kat, but it's like my understanding that traditional hoof care education is more focused on the foot and less on the holistic, the diet and the management and the stress and metabolics and all the rest of it. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I think I only have a touch of sort of the farrier education in America, but in Australia, we definitely weren't talking about nutrition or the impact that copper and zinc can have on feet. And we weren't looking at bodies as far as like how they move affects the feet and those kinds of things, which I understand why, because there's so much information that we need to teach. There's a limited of what we can put into the course. But from the perspective of all of us here, like those are things that we look at so prominently when we go to look at client horses that I think it needs more emphasis.
Yeah, and I think it makes our job so much easier to look at those things. Not always easy, I shouldn't say. Yeah. But in terms of like, obviously, there are so many traditional farriers that I respect so much. Yes. And I think that, and this is something where it gets sticky, even talking about the ethics, because I think that we all have the same goal. Like I've never met, like I'm obviously an untraditional hoof care provider. Like we're looking at the whole body, we're looking at the horse, we're looking at their diet, we're looking at their environment. And the last thing I do is really say like, okay, we've put all these pieces together. Now do I need to put something on the foot, Yeah. Whereas, a more traditional hoof care or farrier is going to look at the foot and say, what do I need to put on this foot? Yeah. But I will say, I've never met a farrier that's like, that their goal is not to get a horse more comfortable and more sound. Yes. Like we both have this goal of, we want these horses comfortable and sound. I don't want to see a horse walking around there crippled just because I want them barefoot. That's absolutely like that to me is unethical to let a horse move around uncomfortably because I have some sort of ideal in my mind. Yeah. And I so respect traditional farriery for working so hard to try to find solutions to get these horses comfortable. And
Yeah.
I just think that it's looking at, like we're saying, it's looking at different parts of the horse almost.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just wanted to interject that because I know we have traditional farriers that listen, and
Yes.
I do. I could never do what they do at the forge, and
Yep.
like I
Agreed.
gosh, it is amazing the skills you have to like shape a shoe and build a shoe and apply a shoe well.
Yep. It is. I agree with you there. Yeah. I've got farrier friends that, huge respect for them, and it is incredibly hard what they do. So I'm definitely not trying to say one way is better than the other. Why have the three of us, like the four of us who have come to Barefoot Hoof Care, gone on to learn how to apply shoes?
That's the other end of the spectrum too, isn't it?
Yeah.
That all of us have a barefoot background.
Yeah.
And we've gone and learnt we're working for a boot company to start with.
Exactly. Well, when I say shoes, I mean protection.
Yeah, protection.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Composite boots.
Otherwise.
Yeah. So why have we all gone on to do that?
Because we want to be comfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's absolutely
band-aid to a long-term problem.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And letting a horse move around on sore feet is so damaging to their whole body.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you need, I hate to say it in this way, but sometimes you need a crutch to be able to address the other root causes so that it doesn't continue to unravel the body.
Yes.
And sometimes, and this is where I guess kind of the root of the conversation is like, there are some horses that just have such damaged feet.
Mm-hmm.
And they need protection. And I think that that's a kindness to them.
Yeah.
And if we're really truly looking at the ethics of horse care and hoof care, I would rather see them comfortable than stick to some ideology.
I agree.
And that's where I guess this is where like this sort of like the background of like this whole conversation, right? And then the next question is if we can get if a horse has such damaged feet that they literally can't even walk around in their turnout without protection. And I'm not talking about a horse that gets a little foot sore when they lose a shoe. I'm talking about these horses where we've worked at trying to get their feet stronger and they literally are incapable of growing a healthy foot. If they're comfortable with that protection, where do we draw the line in saying, I don't think this horse should be ridden? Obviously, that's not our as a hoof care provider, that's not our place to say. But if this was our own horse, where do we draw that line of like, well, this horse is actually comfortable and okay in this hoof protection? Should we be asking them to carry body weight on these hooves, even though they're comfortable? Or, should they just have a comfortable retirement? And that's something that I've been in cases that I've really struggled with.
Yeah. I want to add something to that because you said, Alicia, it's not our job as the hoof care provider to say if the horse should or shouldn't be ridden. I think ethically, how often do you get asked, can I ride him now?
Oh, yes, I do get
as a professional.
That. I do.
Yeah. The clients ask you. So I don't think as professionals we can just say, look, that's not my wheelhouse, that you need to figure that out whatever other way. I will err on the side of caution and say, no. But I think it is part of our job.
Yeah.
To be able to give that advice.
A lot of experience that we can draw on to be like, well, I generally word it like, if this was my horse, I would be thinking about XYZ.
Yeah.
And I think too, this is where I think, we've even had these conversations of why it's so important to have a really good team and a team that communicates and collaborates. And I know in practice, and I know we've all experienced that, it's not always possible.
Yeah.
But it's the best thing in the world as a professional when you have other professionals on the team to consult. So when I can talk to the veterinarian who's overseeing the horse, when I can talk to the body worker or the chiropractor, and we can all sort of put our heads together and make a plan for that particular horse with the owner. And I think from my perspective, and I'm sure you guys have had the same experience, it's so horse dependent.
Yeah.
So when I look at horses and I think about what should this horse be doing, I also look at the overall quality of their life. Is this horse in a situation where if they were retired, they're going to be in a good amount of turnout space with friends where they're getting mental stimulation, and they're not going to be standing around in a stall bored out of their mind, not getting any exercise? Because I also think sometimes taking the exercise away in those situations can be detrimental, because now you're going to start losing muscle mass, and then they start, you know, posturing in a way that becomes compensatory, and then the feet are worse. And so it depends on what the owner has going on, I think. Yeah.
We have less of that, horses standing around in stalls in Australia. It's cheap and easy to keep horses in relatively large turnout, even in a high density area like where I live. I guess I like the way that you say, if the horse was retired, is it going to be able to fulfill its species, you know, what the DNA tells the animal it needs? Is it going to be sound enough to live in a herd and not be bullied and chased around and not be able to get out of the way if another horse decides that it needs to move? Is it going to be able to eat enough food? Is it going to be able to, you know, live a life worth living, right? And if the horse is not sound enough to do that and has to be in a small turnout because of soft tissue injury or whatever, is it ethical for us as hoof care providers to be able to continue to keep that horse sound in that fairly restricted management and enable the horse to be? This is what worries me, right, with keeping horses sound, with protection, added protection, boots, shoes, whatever. What worries me is that we may or may not be enabling less than ideal management practices that have other issues, like a horse being able to be kept sound for riding, but it's kept in a stall most of the time. If it's not moving enough, its gut is not moving enough. If its gut's not moving enough, it's more prone to colic. It's more prone to, you would know a lot more than me about this, Becky, but like just the gut motility in a horse that doesn't move enough is enough to cause some significant issues in a horse. I don't know. This is where it's so horse dependent, isn't it?
And it's complicated.
Yeah.
It's really
I will say, this is going to be probably one of the more controversial things I'll say. It's, I don't really work on performance horses because I really struggle with a few things. I think that I feel so strongly about how horses are kept. And I think that performance horses, a lot of times, I get it, they're super valuable. Not that a horse knows how valuable they are, but you know, they're super valuable, and people really want to protect them and not have them get hurt. And I think that in turn, because they're worried about their, you know, health and in terms of their like soft tissue health and injury and soundness, they are living in ways that I really struggle with. And then I have, when I have worked on performance horses, and this is again with the ethical mindset that I struggle with, is that sometimes it's a concern of, well, my horse is lame today. I'm supposed to show this weekend. What can you do to my horse's feet to allow me to be able to show this weekend?
Yeah.
And I think that I will say it's kind of amazing that there are farriers out there that can literally look at a horse, watch it move, pick up its foot, and apply something to allow them to perform a high performance job.
Yeah.
That they otherwise couldn't do. That's incredible. But in my mind, my thought is that something that I want that horse to go through. I don't know.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
know that's a controversial thing. I know that there are people who probably listen to this and be like, oh my goodness, Alicia's a jerk and she like doesn't approve of me going out and jumping this weekend. Like, it's obviously case dependent, but it is
Yeah.
something that I realized when I was going into performance barns that I didn't feel good when I left.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And that's not every performance barn. I'm just saying there were some. And I'm going to kind of leave it there and see what you guys think, because I know that's sort of a big thing to unpack.
It is
So
really big
although
topic.
I don't have the same years of experience that you guys have in this, I did figure out very early on that performance horses were not my specialty. And I was very happy to pass those on to people who were good at that, were specialized in that. I struggled with sometimes having clients that wanted a result more quickly than I was comfortable pushing that hoof to that result. And I don't shoe. So like I would use boots and I trim, but I don't have the same shoeing background that you guys have. So those were clients that I would refer to somebody else, because I felt that my specialty was the barefoot side of things, and there were other people more qualified than me to do that and make those decisions. For myself, it felt a little bit uncomfortable because I feel passionately about keeping horses barefoot, but also acknowledge that there were horses in my practice that were not comfortable barefoot. And some people were not able to keep boots on those horses because like I'd rather see a horse go in some sort of shoeing package if the horse was going to be turned out 24/7 in boots with not daily oversight of those boots to change them out, make sure they were dry, treat the feet for thrush. To me, that's also not ethical.
Yeah.
You know, to like Alicia said before, like dying on that barefoot hill, to die on the barefoot hill when clearly the practices we're using are not working for the horse. So
Yes.
performance horses were just not for me. And there are so many people who are better qualified than I was to make those decisions and help the owners reach those goals.
Yeah.
I've had a few. I don't have a huge experience with high-level performance horses, but I've done some, many amateur-owned performance horses. And I think I feel similarly to you guys that some of the things did make me feel uncomfortable. I especially struggled with, I don't know what you would call them in other parts of the world, but hackies, hack horses.
Show horses.
Okay. So what would that be in terms of performance?
Like showing.
A hunter?
Yeah, like hunter showing, I guess.
Yeah.
So judges in Australia do like to see them well fleshed out. And as we all know, that's very hard to keep, especially the shorter horses, ponies. It's difficult to keep those horses sound when they're carrying that extra weight that the judges do like to see because of breed standards or whatever that is. I found it very difficult to work in that kind of an environment because I just couldn't keep them sound enough and keep their hooves healthy enough. And we were always about to manage the next
flare up or episode.
Yeah. And it was a very fine line to keep them in that weight, but also keep them working, because otherwise the second they stopped doing, like weren't worked every day, there would be a flare up with the hooves, an inflammatory event. So I really struggled with that. But I've not done any kind of special shoeing package for performance horses. It's been pretty standard glue-ons or nail-on poly shoes that are not that fancy. Have you got any more experience with that, Kat? Or
I still probably sit in the amateur sort of category with my owners. I've had a few higher level sort of showies. I love that stuff. That's more my jam. I really enjoy the idea of like trying to keep them as comfortable as possible and as much work as possible while like managing everything else and trying to manage their workload and that sort of stuff. And I've done a few eventers.
Yeah.
And I really like working with small barns, owners that have only one or two horses and they're doing everything they can for those horses, because I feel like it's a real team effort to try and get this horse going. but I don't do going into barns and doing 8 horses for the trainer. Like, that's not my jam. But doing 1 or 2 horses for an owner that goes out competing every weekend, I feel that those horses are better looked after than the horse that's chucked in the paddock and they don't check it for weeks and weeks. That's where I have an ethical problem. I would prefer a horse to be worked and to be doing stuff than to be left in a paddock and it's injured its leg and no one noticed for 2 weeks and it's now septic.
Or even like the amateur owners who work full time and only have time to ride their horse maybe even once a month.
Yeah.
And so we're providing hoof care for these horses that are going out, say, on trail rides over rocky terrain and and they're sound enough to do it, but are they fit enough to do it?
That
Probably
hurts
not.
my soul.
Almost certainly not. So we're allowing these horses, as hoof care providers, we're providing them with shoeing or booting or whatever, to be ridden possibly more than what they're not being legged up. They're going out on a 2-3 hour trail ride once a month and then living in, their normal environment outside of that, which might be their normal environment, might be ticking all the boxes. They live in a big herd. They have, they got the friends, forage, food,
But that doesn't also mean that their gut health is good, that they have good top line, that they are fit, that they are all of those
that they're
things.
Getting all the nutrition they need.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Right. And I will say, I mean, I have, acres of track systems here at my property, and horses, even living on a track system, even getting their needs met, they will revert to what's easy for them in movement. They will revert to the easy thing, not the right thing. Yeah. I think is and that's something that it was really driven home when I had a clinic here in October with some really amazing body workers and anatomists, like people who really understand the body so much more than even than I do. I mean, I'm like fetlock down, I'm good, but like, in really seeing how horses will, like, they they're not going to naturally just work through their back if they don't have to. Like, they're not gonna use their thoracic sling if they're just, you have to like actually put consideration, even when training. They're not gonna actually do that. You have to actually know what to look for and what to ask the horse for. Yeah. And I think, like Kat was saying, there are people that those horses are their whole life and they're going to work really hard to make sure that they are getting that proper training. And I mean, sometimes I look up my own retired guy and I'm like, dude, you just, like, he gets a hunter's bump so easily. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Like, I need you moving better. And he's one that he doesn't, I mean, I'm not asking much of him because he has such awful soft tissue in his hooves. He has so much scar tissue. Yeah. But yeah, I think that I absolutely agree. I think it's like both ends of the spectrum,
And it depends on where you've come from as to where on your spectrum you sort of sit to.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think you've convinced me a little bit, Kat. I do need to write somebody. What's really funny? Somebody asked me. I just want to relate it to back what you were saying, Alicia, about your own horse. I was at dinner with some horsey people for a friend, and they didn't know me. I didn't know them. And when they found out I was a hoof care provider, oh, okay, oh, that's awesome. Do you ride? And I said, in theory. And I look at my horse, and she's 20 this year, and she's had a lot. Her life's been a lot for her. She's had a lot of like medical dramas, and I've done the best I can for her. As with my education and my money and all the rest of it. However, she needs like a proper in-hand program to get her back into being able to be ridden, and I just haven't done it.
Haven't prioritized the time yet.
Haven't prioritized the time yet. Caveat, I am a mum and I have a young baby.
Life. But it also
I have life. We all have life.
Like, understand other people's lives, right? Like, we got to be 100%. Forgiving and empathetic to everyone.
Yes.
Maybe their top priority isn't their horse, but maybe they're not the client for us either.
That's true. I don't know if I would want to be my own client. However, this is where the ethics thing comes in, right? I've got a few horses at the moment that are borderline, like looking into the future. They're older. They have some pretty chronic things going on with their feet. And just horses as they get older, they reach an age, right, where there's just not a lot you can do for them.
Yeah.
So at the moment, I'm trying some things with shoeing packages just to give them comfort for a short period of time so that maybe their owners can make arrangements.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Make arrangements, come to terms, all that kind of jazz. So there's the ethics of looking after the horse and the animal, but then there's also the ethics around supporting the owner who's, these owners have been wonderful owners for long term for me, and I want to help make the process easier for them. So it's easy to sit back when you don't know the people and say, well, the horses, like, we should euthanize those horses right this moment because that's what's best for the horse, right?
Yeah.
But is that what's best for the entire situation? And there's one horse that is a companion to another one.
Yeah.
So the other one, there's nothing wrong with the other horse, so that one horse will have to be euthanized as well at the same time, and that's a lot for someone to deal with. So, how do you guys all handle that, or what are your thoughts on that ethically? I feel comfortable that I can ethically give these horses the comfort they need in that short space of time, even though it's palliative, to be able to give them, so the horses are not suffering. However, what are your thoughts on all that?
So to me, that is a completely other side of that to me is different than we have a horse who's clearly lame, but we're shoeing it to make it sound so it can perform. That to me is like a service to quality of life. What you're doing for that horse is you have a horse that is coming to the end of life, and you're providing comfort, and you're allowing that horse to have quality of life for a longer period of time so that the owners can take care of what they need to take care of. You're giving the horse more quality time that it might not have. To me is that's a service versus an ethical dilemma. And I think that that's totally appropriate as long as the horse is comfortable. That's the whole goal. I think that's everyone here. That's our goal, is for the horses to be comfortable.
Yeah.
Especially in those situations.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. It's so funny. I was thinking as we were talking is that I wonder if owners even realize these thought processes that we have when we're thinking about ethics. I don't know that owners even know how much we think about the ethics in every case I come to. When I'm thinking about, how is this horse being kept? Is this horse getting a quality of life that I think is good for it? Is it, is he or she getting good nutrition, turnout? Are these feet something that I feel like I can get to a better spot? It's not just a job. I think for most of us, it's not just a job. We just show up, remove some hoof, and leave.
It'd be nice if it was.
Anybody.
It'd be so much easier.
Honestly, it would. I would get such better sleep.
Yeah.
This conversation is literally, I've played these kind of scenarios in my head on so many occasions, and it can be really hard. It can be really hard.
For me, I come back to everyone's just doing the best they can with the knowledge they have. No one goes out there and they want to do wrong by their horse.
No.
But it's are they at a place where they're ready to take on information and all of those things that we have to share? And maybe they're not. Maybe there's someone that can share that information with them in a different way that would be better for them. And it's okay to let those clients go and continue on your journey.
Yeah, that's true. That's really true.
And I do think it is part of our job as hoof care providers, or, whatever we're doing with horses, as to be educators.
Yeah.
I think any good professional of any type, whether you're a veterinarian or a body worker or a hoof care provider, should be providing some form of education to clients, because a lot of the clients that I met who were insisting on certain things, it was more because they'd never been talked to about different aspects of horse care. And when they had the information, it armed them with the knowledge to make different decisions. And sometimes they didn't. Sometimes they had that knowledge and they still felt like they were making the right choice. But I think at the end of the day, that's where it comes down to, that horse does belong to that person, and we can provide the information, and we have to let that person do with that information what they will and make the decision they feel is right for their horse.
Yeah.
And on our end, that's where we have to check in with ourselves about our ethics and morals, and what cases we are willing to take on and what cases we need to refer out or walk away from because our core values don't align with maybe that particular client. And that doesn't mean either party is wrong necessarily. It just means that we have different viewpoints, and it's so important for core values to line up no matter who the professional is. I mean, I've been through it with my own horses with veterinarians. It took me years to find the one veterinarian that I was like, finally somebody who like aligns with me and understands me and doesn't think I'm crazy when I mention X, Y, and Z. And it's made my horse care routine so much better. And I feel so much less stressed when I have to call about something I'm worried about, because I know I have somebody who like, you know, is on the same way you
do. Yeah. Definitely. And definitely, my favourite vet, she's Finnish, and I'm always terrified she's going to go back to Finland. She says she won't, but you never know.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, all like talking about clients or your team that you work with, finding people that align with your goals and your ideas about things, it helps me at least prevent burnout or compassion fatigue in cases.
Yes.
Because you're not
fighting,
spending all your energy fighting the other members of the team to try to help the horse. You're working together to help the horse. And it's a totally different feeling. And I was I just said this last week to a client where we did kind of have a disagreement about something, where I was like, you know what, it's if you aren't comfortable with my approach, that is okay. Like I know that I'm not going to be the hoof care provider for everybody. And I'm not saying that in an egotistical way. I'm not saying that in a proud, prideful way. I'm saying that in, I want you to find someone that you are so comfortable with, that you trust, that you want to be part of a team with. And that's okay if that's not me. And honestly, like that's going to be better for the horse to find somebody that you trust and that you want to work with.
Because at the end of the day, what does the horse need? You know, what does the horse need? The horse is in whatever situation it's in. And for me, putting that education out there and changing, you know, traditional management practices that might not necessarily serve the horse very well, but it does serve humans. If we take a step back, at the end of the day, the horses need X, Y, Z, whether it's got shoes on or not, whether it's got, you know, whether it's got a show jumping competition on the weekend or not, all the rest of it. Is it still, what am I trying to say here? Is it still getting its friends forage freedom? I think that's my biggest thing. And if the veterinarian or the, you know, the trainer or the body worker or whatever doesn't quite agree with what I'm agreeing with, or, you know, what I think should be, I'm sorry, I'm going to make you guys.
It's what your farrier or what your veterinarian's suggesting. Yeah,
if you know, if you trust them, go with, they've obviously have their experience and their successes. And if I'm muddying the waters with what I find successful, it's like half doing both programs. Does that make sense? And you're never going to get to that success for the horse. So you may as well go with whoever it is that you trust the most and do what they say, that what their experience dictates is going to get the results that the horse needs and you need, rather than trying to half do it that way and half do it my way. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I think
Dr. Kellen,
sorry, go Alicia.
Oh, you're going to say Dr. Kellen has a phrase that goes, halfway measures get halfway results. And I think, I mean, obviously she's talking about in metabolic laminitis, but I think that can be used in so many different instances where like, you can't just be wishy-washy because you're not sticking to a plan for the horse, and it's not going to, it is going to muddy the waters. Like,
yeah. This is why so I guess we're going back to being a bit more specific. If I'm coming into a rehab case, I say and the client and the vet and the team is like, yep, let's do what Lisa says, like, what Lisa wants to do. I say we need a minimum of 3 months in this shoeing package, in this booting, with this new diet, with this program, blah, 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 whatever it is, minimum of 3 months to see if this is going to work for the horse. Now, that doesn't mean that I let a horse be sore for 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
If the horse is not comfortable, baseline comfortable, then we need to change something. But if we're not seeing amazing success after the first shoeing or 2 weeks in or whatever, it doesn't necessarily mean that we need to stop and change it up. Like, give things time to see the results. Results and changes in they can be pretty immediate and quick, like what you were saying earlier, Becky, but they often are not. And they take a longer time, and having that patience and not riding that horse and not expecting to go out to the Sydney Royal at Easter when we're starting the rehab and on the 9th of March, not having those, adjusting expectations and yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But also being aware, I think, it comes around that there's different business models with hoof care practitioners. You're going to have a farrier whose business model is that they're coming in and they're seeing how much work they can get in a specific amount of time. Or you might have someone come in that wants to talk to you about all of the other stuff that's involved in your horse's life, but you do need to pay for that. It's going to cost you more if you want someone to care about all of the other things.
Yes, correct. Yep. And this is where, I don't want to go into my other passion project, which is business practices for hoof care providers.
Yeah.
But this is where asking, how much is a trim worth is irrelevant, I think. It's not the trim that you're paying for necessarily. It's everything else behind it.
Right. And I think this is maybe off topic, but I think another big point of discussion is being really careful to not place all of the burden of success on the hoof care provider.
Yes, please. And I'm not saying this to like throw owners under the bus. It's just, they're so, that's something all of us here are so passionate about, are all of the other things that go into getting a horse comfortable and sound above and beyond what the hoof care provider does every X amount of weeks. And I think it's so easy to say, well, this farrier, this hoof care provider didn't get my horse sound. I'm going to go to this one. Now that didn't work. We're going to go to this one. And I think that so much of the ethics in hoof care is what the owner is doing. Yes, definitely. I can't be successful if someone wants to keep their horse barefoot thoroughbred, for instance. Like I say, barefoot thoroughbreds are my jam. I love barefoot thoroughbreds. I'm pretty good at keeping them sound. I cannot be successful with that whatsoever if I can't also advise on the diet and the turnout and, even the showing schedule. Like some of these horses, they can't go out every weekend during the showing season. They need decompression time. They need XYZ. And I cannot be successful keeping those horses sound unless the owner is willing to make those adjustments. If you want to continue feeding your bagged feed because, you've fed it for 15 years and that's what you feed, okay, but you're not going to get the results that I get when my owners do.
There's a Pete Ramey quote, and it's like, you can fail with someone cheaper.
Yeah.
I was just thinking that. I literally was like, I remember Pete Ramey said that. You can fail with somebody cheaper. Yeah.
It's true.
So true.
It's true. Mm-hmm. It's true. It's not magic what we do, I don't think. Like I get a lot of feedback that I've got a lovely trim and I love that. I love hearing that I do. But I don't feel like I do anything particularly special or different.
No.
I literally feel that every single day. And yeah. I'm admitting that like openly to thousands of people right now. But, I'm so thankful and so grateful for all my clients who have chosen to work with me. I think they could go with somebody else and be perfectly fine too.
Yep.
I don't think that I have some secret sauce that someone else down the road does not have.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest. I think that I care a lot about my work and I try the best I can to learn and grow and do a good job. I don't think that I'm inherently better than anybody else in my area.
No.
You know, I think that us educating the owners on how they can grow a healthy hoof and how they can care for their horses puts way more into how those hooves respond than what I do.
Look, I think we all believe that. We all believe that because look at the project we're all working on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that's something where I hope that we can have so many more discussions because there's so much to talk about when it comes to this. And that's what, I mean, like we talked about in the beginning, that's how we all met. We got together to work on this Hoof to Horse Academy because there's so much to consider, infinite amount of topics to consider when it comes to a horse's soundness or just their health in general.
Yeah.
And it's something that we're all passionate about diving into all of those. And there's not enough time in the day for us to talk to owners about all of this.
There's not. There's really not. There's really
But we'll
not.
just keep doing it because we love it.
We do. But for me, I'm most excited about getting into the educational side of things heavy, like more, is because every person I help or teach, they will go on to help horses.
More horses.
Physically, I can only help this small amount of horses, but by proxy, I can help thousands of horses.
Yeah.
Being part of, educating people and sharing evidence-based knowledge, and like that is where my biggest passion lies. It always has been, even back when I had no idea and I was just trimming friends' horses because, they couldn't get the farrier out, and I was just, at the adjustment property, and they're like, "Oh, you have a rasp, you know how to trim feet." And I would say, "Oh, see this toe crack? If I just relieve the walls," I was thinking about this the other day. "If I just relieve the walls, it'll grow out." And it was seedy toe. Do you know? I remember being convinced that if I just took away the weight bearing on each side of the crack, it'll grow out, and it never did. But I kept saying it anyway. That's a little bit off topic, but that's been.
Well, I think too, like that sort of also leads into, at least as when I was doing hooves, I always wanted good places to send people for knowledge.
Yes.
Because when you're at the farm, you give as much as you can, but at the end of the day, you have to get on to the next horse or the next client or the next thing. And we never have enough time in the day to talk to our clients about this stuff.
No, never.
So if there's a platform that people can go to where, there's evidence-based, science-backed information from professionals, in the field, it helps other professionals because there's a place to send people where they can trust that their clients are getting good information, because let's face it, the internet's a scary place, and there's a lot of, you can almost find anything you want on the internet and confirm whatever biases you already have, but getting information that is unbiased is tough. So that's what excites me about the project we've been working on, because it's a place where professionals can send clients, and clients can go, and professionals can go, and it's like a whole community of people who care so much about the same thing we do, which is the whole horse. And the health, not just the body, but the mental health and everything. And that all comes back to healthy feet in the end.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And honestly, I feel like we could have another discussion sometime about like how to analyze the information that you read anywhere.
Yeah, definitely.
And how to critically think about the information that you read.
We definitely need to do, we definitely need to do critical thinking in horse care. Discussion 100%. That'd be amazing.
Yeah. Awesome. And I feel like we could literally talk about these topics forever. And I think that, we've covered a lot of information today. There's a lot of starting points of further discussion even, and stuff that might be grounds for just people to start thinking about in their own hoof care practice or in their own horse keeping.
Yeah.
But I'm planning to have us chat more. And also I just remembered I think this is the kickoff of the Hoof to Horse Academy podcast.
It is.
I just remembered that this is going to, so we will have more discussions.
We will. That's
welcome.
Right.
Surprise. You're all here. You made it.
This is us secretly getting
launching
into
our podcast.
Yeah, launching our podcast. We forgot we were doing.
We've surprised ourselves. Look at that. Yeah, so that'll be,
Awesome.
I mean, I'm really excited to see how that grows and evolves and having more candid conversations. And like, if you've ever
Yeah.
wondered what your healthcare provider thinks, we'll get to chat about that. So
Yes, all my clients can come and listen to me. Like
I
what
know, I was
really
thinking
think.
like, I have to be careful about examples that I give because
I was
I don't
having
want people
those
to be like,
thoughts
oh, that was
too.
my horse last week.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. Thank you,
Well,
guys. This has been
yeah, it
amazing.
was so great to chat with you all in different time zones and hemispheres. Well, I really look forward to chatting with you all more and diving into more topics. And I think we can probably put some posts out and see what people want to hear us sort of talk about and spend more
Yeah.
time on too.
Yeah, definitely. And any excuse to chat with you guys for me.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone. Have a good evening/day.
I always say that I'm slightly more hoof obsessed than the average person, and chances are, if you're listening to a hoof care podcast, you are too. So we should probably be friends. Feel free to find me on Facebook or email me at thehumblehoof@gmail.com.